Welcome back, guys. So we're going to go on to creating a user model in Django. So we're going to do that under accounts. So you go into accounts, see models, and this is where we're going to create a user model. So the user model is a database model which represents the users of our web application. So by users, we don't mean visitors to the site. By users, we mean people that are going to come and log in or log out. So have login and log out capability. First thing we're going to do is we're going to build a custom user based on some models that come pre-shipped in Django. So we'll go to from Django, we'll go django.contrib.auth.models import. So we're going to import the abstract base user, going to import the base user manager, and we're going to import the user model. So this user model is the default user model which comes with Django, but we are not going to use it. So, but we're going to create it, we're going to import it just so you know it's there, right? Now we can go ahead and create the custom user model. So let's call it custom user. Okay, so I didn't want to call it user so it doesn't conflict with the default user in Django. The difference between the user and custom user is the default user in Django, as at Django 3. For you to log in, you need to supply a username and password. So, but for our application, we want the user to be able to supply an email and password. So that's the big difference. You can come here, inherit from, so this class is going to inherit from abstract base user, that's going to inherit from permissions mixing. Okay, so let's import that. Yeah, permissions mixing. So this is multiple inheritance. So it's inheriting attributes and functions from both classes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to list, first let's add a docstring. It's a model representation for a user. Okay, we can add more to that, but this should do for now. What are the attributes you want a user that has login capability to supply into the database? So first we want supply the first name. So say first name equals models dot char field, which stands for character field. So for character field, you want to specify the max length, and we don't want a name longer than 20 characters. Verbose name. So this verbose name means the human readable name. So let's say, what is your first name? Okay, this is good. Next, we want the last name. We'll say models dot char field. The max length, we want it to be say 20 characters as well. The verbose name, we want it to be what is your last name. Next, we want to get the email. So email equals to models dot email field. For this as well, we need to specify the max length. Let's say 40 characters. Your email should not be longer than 40 characters. Verbose name, we say, what is your email address? Okay, you can put a question mark if you want. So we specify the first name, last name, email address. These are the basic stuff we want. Next, we can specify several other attributes. So one is active. Okay, so this is a standard. If you see here, it means because we're overriding this attribute from the abstract base user class. Okay, so if we follow that, we can see this is the abstract base user class we are inheriting from, and you can see is active, true. Cool. So we're just going to override that here. Models dot boolean field, we want to supply a default value of true. So what this means is anyone that signs up for this application is by default an active user. Right, the idea behind this is if we want to stop a user from logging in, we'll just make them inactive by changing is active, we'll change it to false, and that way they will not be able to log in to the system instead of having to delete the user. Next, we want to specify, is this person an admin user? Is admin equals, I just like to do this one, models dot boolean field default false. We don't want every user to this site to be an admin user. Okay, so is this person a staff user? Models dot boolean field default false. Okay, another important field is super user. So the super user is a type of user in a web application that has the highest level of control over the web application, can play around the database, delete some parameters and things like that. We don't want every user to be a super user, right? So we're going to make this false by default. So boolean field default false. Okay, so at this point we've specified the basic fields we want, and you can see here that we're overwriting this from permission mixing. So permission mixing, there's the is super user attribute and the other attributes. We're not going to mess with this other attributes. We're just going to make the most basic stuff that can make our application run. Next thing you want to specify, the manager class for this user. So you do that by saying objects equals to, you can call this anything you want, but I'm going to just call it custom user manager. Now you can see it's in red, and the reason why that is because we haven't specified this yet. So let's go ahead and just specify this up here. Say class custom user manager. Okay, we're going to inherit from base user manager. For now, we're going to just pass. Okay, we can come back and fix that. You can see the red disappeared. Next, you would need to specify required fields. Okay, now you can see this is also a default field from somewhere. So you can see under abstract base user, it's an attribute required field and it's empty. We don't want it to be empty, so that's why we are overriding it here. So we want the first name for sure, we want it to be required, so that's this field. Then last name, I could just copy this. So this is a list of the required fields. Okay, so first name is required, last name is required. One more thing, for this email field, it has to be unique. So let's say unique equals true. The reason for this is we don't want more than one, we don't want two people to have the same email address, because then which one of them would you log in, right? So that's why this unique constraint is very important for the email field, and that's fine. We specify the required fields. The password field, we didn't put it here because by default the password field will always be required. Next, in Django, there's something you have to do. So for example, if you were using the basic user class, right, you would not need to specify, you won't even need to do anything. You just go ahead and use that user model and everything will be fine. But because we want to use email instead of a username field, we're going to have to specify username field. Okay, it's kind of weird, but that's how it is, right? I will specify the name of the attributes in this class, and that's email. So we just put that in as a string, email. Also, you need to specify the email field. Email field equals email. So the email field is the email, and that's good. Sorry, this is showing me what. Yeah, just give you some space. Yeah, that's what it wants. Let me close this. We don't need this as well. At this point, we have what we need. Now we want to go specify some functions in this class. The first function is a built-in Python function, __str__. Now this shows the string representation for an object. In Python, everything is an object, so this just shows what is the string representation for that object. It could be anything you want it to be, but I want it to be the email. Okay, so it's going to return anytime we try to print a user, it's going to show us their email address, which, I mean, is a unique identifier if you ask me. Next, you want to create a function called get short name. So for this, we want to return the first name. Yes, this needs to be specified. And well, we can also create another function, get full name. So totally optional, but I like to do it. So first name will be self dot first name, last will be self dot last name, and so the full name will be equals to okay, so the first name plus the last name, let's do this, put a space in between, and we should be good. There might be a more fancy way of doing this, but this works. So I want this function to return the full name of the person. So return full name. Okay, so at this point we are done specifying the custom user model in Django. We specify the first name, last name, email. We specify these other 4 default fields which show the different levels of users: the active user, the admin user, the staff user, and the super user. We specify the manager class for the user model, specify the required fields, the username field. In this case, we want it to be the email. Specify the email field, and that's of course email. Then we specify the string representation for the class, specified the short name and the full name. One last thing we need to do is we need to go to the settings file and let Django know that we are not going to be using the default user model, but we are going to be using a custom user model. So we go to settings under block project. So here we're going to specify a new attribute, auth user model. It's going to be equals to the name of the app which has the custom user model. In our case, it's accounts dot the name of the class. So this custom user. Okay, and at this point we are done with making the custom user model. Next, we're going to create a model manager for the custom user, and then we can run our first migration and we'll be good to go. Thank you, and see you in the next video.